these events last year, put them on international TV, and we have been flooded with emails and phone calls. It's pretty cool. So I'm just celebrating that as a way to say hello. It's really been very profound to have that work, recognized that way. So today I want to present to you how to overcome adversity with your families. And this doesn't matter if your children are 70 years old, 7 years old, or 20 years old. There's just some basic steps that really have to happen in order to manage adversity. And I want to let you know just very briefly about my background, like how does a chiropractor know anything about helping families overcome adversity? Here's how I know. Personally and professionally, there's two answers. Personally, I grew up in Queens, New York City in the 50s and the 60s during a time when my family was so poor. I mean, we lived in this tiny little apartment with 7 people, including my grandmother who spoke no English. And in my family, depression was very real. There were suicides when I was a kid, my grandfather included. So there was a lot of anxiety in my life and a lot of tension in the house or in this apartment. And I was determined by the time I was a teenager to not suffer from depression and anxiety. Here's what I did. I started taking the bus and train when I was old enough into Manhattan, and I found some mentors at a bookstore, Samuel Weiser bookstore, which was a very famous occult bookstore at the time. And I told them I wanted to be enlightened. I told them I wanted to be free from stress. I told them that I never wanted to die from anything that was depression caused. And that just changed my life. These people took me under their wing. I ended up getting my degrees in comparative religion. I traveled the world. I spent time in many different places studying with gurus and saints and living on the Ganges River naked, living in the middle of Africa, in the middle of nowhere, learning about enlightenment, how families do their own dynamics, how do they get along better. I learned a lot of things. So long story short, when my son was a teenager, I thought I was going to be the world's best father, and it turned out not to be true. It was so painful to watch my daughter, who's now 41 today, and my son, 37, I felt like they were on a ship. I felt like they were moving away from me. I was standing on the shore like I had no way to catch up to them. They were just withdrawing from me. And that's when I decided to change my life from a mind-body wellness doctor here in San Rafael, where I was a life coach to thousands of people and an expert in stress management. And I decided to take my skills and create a method that would help families have more caring and cooperative relationships together. And so by coming up with a very specific method in a very specific way that had taken the best of brain science and parent-child attachment bonding and positive discipline and personal growth and stress management, I started the Young Men's Ultimate Weekend and these parenting workshops in the year 2000. So here it is, 20 years later. I've been in front of tens and tens and tens of thousands of parents and young people. And so I'm going to give you an outline of the way. I can't go into details of everything I'm going to be going over with you. I'm going to give you the shell, the outline, so that you can kind of have a sense as to what it takes to really have a resilient family, meaning great relationships with your spouse and with your children, and especially if you're divorced. A lot of the stress began in my family when I went through a divorce 20 plus years ago. It was very painful at the time. My former wife, Suzanne, and I really fought a lot. It was really hard on the family. Here we are now, 20 plus years later, we're the best of friends again. We've been co-parenting our children for 20 years. They're both super happy, very productive, very well integrated, resilient children. And so our technology certainly works for divorced families as well. I like to say that I have the happiest divorced married family in the world. So this technology has been tried and true, and it's called the Right Way Method for Family Unity. And when it says the right way, it doesn't mean that there's only one right way. In all my degrees in comparative religion, what I learned was there is no one right way to be enlightened. There is no one right way to raise a family. There's no one right way for anything. What I do believe is that there is a way that's true for each person to be enlightened or happy, and there's a way for a family to have more caring and cooperative relationships. And if they don't discover that way or put together certain teachings from different teachers and integrate it into a way, it's not going to go well for you and your family, because we live in an era of digital dominance and media mania. What I'm saying is that the culture is stealing the attention of our parents and our children. We're getting so caught up in mindless entertainment and over-the-top consumerism that I honestly believe that parents have forgotten their own ancestral instinctual wisdom on how to raise children. And I'm definitely convinced, because I work with thousands of young men at this point, privately and through rite of passage work, that young men are no longer in touch with their biological urge to go out and, go conquer and get out there and make a name for themselves in the world. They're losing that drive. So I'm going to go over the basic steps of what it takes to pull your family together. And I want to begin with this. You actually already know how to do this. Primates are wired, neurologically wired, to overcome adversity. We know how to do this. And we learned this because when we first started out together as humans, we lived in tribes, usually a few hundred people or less, and it was egalitarian. Everybody shared. Everybody knew they were going to make it because they could share resources, unlike the world we live in now, where the few have the many and the rest of us are working hard to get some of that, what the few have. So back in the day, our brains evolved to stay more relaxed when there was adversity, because we kind of knew that if we couldn't figure it out, others could help us. So I'm telling you, as a doctor who specializes in stress management, as a doctor who has a continuing education course for health professionals that teaches them how to teach their patients how to relax their minds and bodies in 15 seconds or less, that the first step that all families need to know in how to have more caring and cooperative and calmer relationships is how to do, how to do a simple mindfulness-based stress reduction technique that takes 15 seconds or less, so that no matter who's yelling, no matter who's crying, no matter who's acting immature, no matter what's going on, everybody needs to relax. So the mantra that I use when I'm teaching parents and children is dissolve, evolve, resolve, meaning this: when there's conflict, the first thing you want to do is dissolve it. Do not, that's N-O-T, not. Do not try to resolve it. If you're all in reactive mode and trying to respond from reaction, it's not going to go well for you and anybody trying to pay attention to you, because you're going to be too loud and too intense. Believe me, I'm a New Yorker. I've learned the hard way. When I'm yelling and screaming, ain't nobody listening. So we won't have time on this course. Maybe we'll have time at the end, we'll see, to teach you the technique, because it takes about 10 minutes to do. But you're going to have to learn a simple mindfulness-based technique. So as parents, you tend to want to react to your children and scream at them or yell at them or make up really bad shit on the spot or give them a punishment. If you have a tween child or a teen child, developmentally speaking, you no longer are the authority. When you're making stuff up on the spot and you're responding from a reactive place, you are not the ones that your children can trust to lead them how to individuate in a healthy way and make it in the outside world. They love you. They'll happily take your money to have you buy them more stuff, and they will not actually trust you. I'm not saying that to be mean or angry. I've made all the mistakes myself. Believe me. I've just been right here in my office in front of thousands of young people, coaching and mentoring for almost 3 decades now. I know what they tell me. So number one, learn how to relax. Very, very important. Step number 2, learn how not to sugarcoat reality for your children. Trying to protect them from the realities of life is not a good idea. It's not a good idea. Up until about 8,000, 10,000 years ago, when the agricultural revolution hit, we were very resilient. Humans were resilient. Then when the agricultural revolution hit, people learned how to save and store food and domesticate animals. And we all became so domesticated that we've forgotten that viruses, like the pandemic, are natural. They're never going to go away. And we have to learn to relax to them and accept that these things are real. Yes, we have global warming, but fires are real. Yes, we have idiot leaders. That's been going on for a very, very long time. Yes, we have a lot of things going on. Humans know how to relax, but first we have to accept reality on its terms and not think that science is going to come save us or we should know better how to handle things. It's up to you as the parents and us as the adults and up to our culture to really have better leadership economically, certainly climatologically, certainly politically. And if we don't, then we have to handle it. So that's reality. It's on us to figure out how to get through right now, because nobody's coming up and saying, here's how you do it, which I'm happy to do. If you put me on TV today in front of the whole world, I'm ready to go. I'm just saying you have to have a way. If there's one thing I've learned in all my background of comparative religion, each one has a specific way. You can't make some stuff up, and you can't do life alone. All right, so step number 1, relaxation. Step number 2, don't sugarcoat. Accept reality as it is. Step number 3, responding. When families do not have a specific technique or method for responding to each person's needs, typically they're going to respond in that reaction place that I mentioned a few moments ago. So you have to have a way to communicate. And we'll come back to that. I think we'll have time to come back to my specific technique that I use anyway. I just want to say that if you cannot communicate in a way where your children really feel heard, no matter how hard they're yelling and screaming and carrying on, if you actually can't hear their real message, they're not going to believe that you're the one to raise them properly, or that you really are connected with them. They will love you, and they will hope someday that you see them. My own sister's son completed suicide 7 years ago. It's very painful. We thought we were the best aunts and uncles, and my sister and her husband thought they were the best parents. They were. What we learned from that was that we may not have been paying attention to what Matthew was saying. You have to have a method of communication where young people feel heard. And by the way, I do a lot of couples coaching and parent coaching. If the parents don't have a way to communicate where they hear each other, it's going to be nearly impossible to have your children turn out to be happy, responsible, and resilient. They'll be way too wounded. And I know some of you know what I'm talking about. No judgment. We just don't want to recreate how we were brought up if it wasn't positive with our children. Next step, I call it realization. To me, I'm going to go back one step. After responding and communicating, I want to go to a step that I call revealing. Revealing means that each family has to have a way to help each family member, parents and children, know how to figure out who they authentically are, their own personal virtues and values and behaviors that make them feel like they are creatively expressing themselves, so that they feel self-actualized or self-realized, or they feel like they're on a good personal growth and spiritual development path to be true to themselves. If you don't, as a parent, know how to draw out of your children a way to discover who they are, they're not going to do very well conforming to the rules of your house. So in my work, we have this saying. And the saying is authenticity over conformity, meaning this: if you try to get your children to conform to all these rules that you may be making up on the spot, it's not going to go well. There'll be anarchy. However, if simultaneously, both at the same time, you have a way to draw out of your children who they are, they will never, ever leave you. They will love you forever and ever because you help them be them. And then they're going to be way more willing and enthusiastic even about conforming to the virtues that you hold in a high regard, that you want them to practice while they're living in your home. So it's up to you to help them reveal who they are, and it's up to you to let them know what you want them to learn in order to make it in the outside world. And if you don't have a set of virtues and values and behaviors that you want them to learn, then it's going to be too helter-skelter. They're not going to get the message because all they're doing is they're going to be on their devices all day long. They're not going to pay attention to you. So you need to reveal what you want them to learn in a very set and orderly way. And that's where I teach parents right in their home to have mini rites of passage right in their home so that they can tell their children, childhood is ending, young adulthood is beginning, and here's the joy we're going to have. I'm going to teach you how to be you, and we're going to ask you to start developing skills so you can make it in the world. Okay? That's step number 4. So we've talked about relaxation, reality, don't sugarcoat, responding in a way that people feel safe and secure to reveal who they are, and then revealing, drawing out of your children who they are, and clearly revealing what you want them to learn. Step 5, I call it realization. In other words, each person wants to realize or be self-realized or self-actualized. So we want to honor everybody's goals. Parents, ideally, need to know how to help their children set goals and implement their goals in an efficient way. Now, I want to tell you, I'm blessed. I have lots of things happening in my life that are amazing, right? I help lots of families get their acts together. However, I suck. I absolutely suck at administration and organization. I can barely turn on my computer. I'm 67 years old, okay? However, I have mentors. And so one of the things I do, the main thing I do for a living now is I'm a family mentor. My point here is that if you can't help your children set and get goals because you're not good at it, you don't have to be ashamed of it. You just have to hire a mentor, a family mentor. Ideally, that's kind of a new concept, but that's what I do. I'm a family mentor. So I can teach everybody in the family how to set their personal goals, their family goals, their school goals, and their business goals. It's very important when you have children who trust that you can help them discover who they are, and then come up with a game plan to realize or actualize who they are. They will always love you and they will never leave you, which is what I know every parent wants as they get older. Every parent wants that biological and spiritual satisfaction of knowing that their children are still close, that their children respect them because they showed them how to make it in the world, and the love that we feel as parents as we get older, that we are deeply connected to our children. That comes from knowing how to help them get their goals. And if you're not good at it, it's not a judgment, it's not a problem. Find somebody who can help you and them do it. Okay, next thing, I call it resourcing. Resourcing means this. In your home, and the way it used to be in tribes thousands of years ago, and really up until a few hundred years ago, and in some remote places on the earth, still to this day, everybody shares their resources. Whether they're physical talents like hunting, whether they're mental skills like figuring out how to build things or put things together, whatever the talents that each tribal member had, they were appreciated and used. And then each person in that tribe was held in a high regard because they had some skill that they could do that would help everybody thrive. So in your home, certainly if you have a tween or a teen, their childhood should be ending. Doesn't mean they can't have fun. It just means that they have to know how to focus and share their skills with their family and their community. That's their job, as long as you're showing them who they are first. If they feel like you're helping them discover who they are, they will way more than likely and willingly want to help the whole household. So you have to clearly define what virtues, values, and behaviors they need to learn, so that when you ask them to do the dishes or make their bed or whatever it is they need to do, it's not because it's a rule that you have. It's because it's a skill they need to learn in order to make it in the outside world. And so then it becomes everybody's contributing. You know, you would then say to your child, basically, here's what I'm contributing. I'm going to work every day, or I'm sitting at home online at my job, earning money so you can eat food, have a roof over your head, and sleep in a bed. What I'm asking you to contribute back to receive those things is to make your bed and do this, take out the garbage, whatever it may be, because that's what you're going to need to know how to do when you move out. And I'm asking you to do it now so that we can reciprocate our resources. We can share them. So if you have a child who's 16 and you're still making their bed, I'm going to challenge you. And when I say the word challenge, it doesn't mean angry. It doesn't mean conflict. It means challenging means an opportunity to do something better. That's how we define it in our work. A challenge is an opportunity to adapt to adversity better. So I'm just challenging you as parents. If you're still doing a lot of things for your children, you're doing them as a disservice in this era of digital dominance where it is robbing their energy, their attention on their biological wisdom to leave. And so they're creating children for you. And I'm saying this with no judgment. I coach families who have 25-year-olds living at home because they haven't grown up yet. I'm saying that with great compassion and sadness. So you want to share everybody's talents. Okay, next step. I call this reconciliation. Here's what that means. There's going to be times when your children are not going to do what you're asking them to do. I'm sure with a nod of your head, you would say, yes, Dr. Mark, that's happened like every second here in my house. Okay. They're not going to do everything you ask them to do. Here's the thing. We don't use punishments in my method called the Right Way Method of Family Unity. When Lisa Ling was showing this on international TV just a few nights ago, what she was pointing to is that every family has to have a way. The reason why we can take dozens and dozens of strange young men on a Friday night, we've never met them before, and by Sunday, they never want to go back to their families. I'm exaggerating. But it's because we know how to work with them, and we use consequences. We never punish them, but we know how to use consequences. You have to become skillful at knowing when to use your authority and when to use your consequences in a way that teach them lessons on how to make it in the outside world. If you want to motivate your children, especially if you have a tween or a teen, the way that you're going to motivate them is to say, hey, I'm so happy you're 12 now or 15. I'm going to now teach you how to make it in the outside world so that you can move on with your life in a really positive way. That's what we're doing here. And if you don't do these things, it's not a problem. There will be consequences, not because I'm a mean person, not because I'm angry and I'm taking out all my crap on you. It's because life, reality itself, is a dual reality, meaning everything you think, say, or do immediately have something thinking, saying, or doing back to you. Whatever you do is going to come back to you. I didn't make it up. I'm just a parent. I'm just a human in the world. I didn't make up the reality itself. I'm just telling you I've observed it for many years. Everything you think, say, and do, there's going to be a reaction to that. That's called a consequence. You do something great, there could be a positive consequence. You do something where you're not living up to the standards of the house, it's not a problem. I'm not going to get angry. Just going to teach you how to make it in the outside world. The consequence will be something that you get to do, so you get to learn how to make it in the outside world. So we call that reconciliation. Next thing, you have to be a black belt to do this, but this is what I teach parents how to do. I call it releasing. There has to be a point where parents and children have a way to release their tension with each other. I call it grieving or releasing. When families, like our ancestors used to do, periodically would let everybody release their anger. Tribal ceremonies where people would get rid of all their anger and all their pain and hatred towards one another, whatever they built up, in a healthy, primal way. That's over. Done. We got to move on. We can't hold this on a list for the rest of our lives because none of us will make it. So there's reconciliation and there's releasing. People have to know how to release their tension. It's very, very important in a way that's not destructive. Next thing, 2 more to go. Rejuvenation. Every way about how to have happy, healthy, holy, and resilient families has to have a way where everybody gets a chance to rejuvenate. Everybody, in order to make it in this world and have the vitality they need, has to know how to maintain physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Vitality is the only way to get through this world. So when I coach families, I help them build into their super duper busy schedules ways to meditate, ways to exercise, ways to fulfill their spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical lives so they have the vitality they'll need. I call that being the CEO, Chief Energy Officer. Everybody in the house has to know how to manage their energy. Okay. And then the final thing in this way that I teach families, I call it rejoicing. Even when there's tough times in the house, even when everybody's may not be getting along great, everybody should be rejoicing their personal wins or any family wins. So for example, in my family, for example, my son, who's 37 now, he owns this company called Legion Beats. He's one of the most widely sought after speakers on how to sell your hip hop beats online. He's making tons of money. And he just spoke in front of 5,000 people right before COVID hit. And he opened the stage for Tony Robbins. It was amazing. When my son was 16 and I started the Young Men's Ultimate Weekend, we could hardly even speak to each other. He was a major introvert. He still is. But I'm so proud of him. He can get on stage and speak in front of thousands of people. When he did that back in January, we celebrated that as a family. We had a huge Zoom call, all my family on the East Coast. We celebrate family wins. If you want to bring your family together, even when you're arguing, even when you're in a rough time, you should always be able to find something to celebrate. So in the right way, RIGHT, it stands for 5 virtues: respect, intelligence, grace, humor, and true. Humor we define as celebrating with amusement and gratitude. If nothing else, you can rejoice by doing a simple gratefulness exercise at dinner and talk about something you're grateful for. So it's really critically important to have these elements in place. It sounds like a lot. I know it sounds like it's not possible to do. Here's what I've discovered. It is never too late, not even ever, no matter how old your children are, to really move your family, excuse me. It's never too late to move your family in the right direction. I just finished coaching a family where the parents came to me. Their daughters are 46, oh yes, 43 and 37. And they've been carrying on a lot of family trauma for a long time. And now we're resolving it. But I use this way. I use a method. I don't make stuff up on the spot. I have a way, I have a method. And so that's what I'm teaching the family how to use, is a method. So they're using it with their grandchildren now, or their children's children. So the whole family's being brought up on a way. So I have about 20 minutes before I need to get ready for an event, a radio interview at 3. So here's what I would like to do. I would like to spend some time answering some questions if you have. And then I think I may have time to teach you the communication technique or the relaxation technique. So I just was wondering, are there any questions that anybody may have?
I don't see any right now.
Okay.
If you want to do the relaxation technique first.
Okay. Let's do that.
Have questions?
Okay.
The right. What were the letters of the right system that you had again?
Thank you. R stands for respect. So we call that a virtue. The value or the definition that we give to it, and if you email me, of course, I'll send you all these things, right? And I'll give you my information at the end, of course. But R stands for respect. That's a virtue. A virtue is a one-word quality. We give it the value or the definition as holding in the highest regard or to esteem with reverence. That's how we define it. I stands for intelligence, which we give the value or define as applying your intuition and your wisdom. Okay? I'm sorry, your intuition and your experience as the source of your wisdom. Intelligence, applying your intuition and your experience as the source of your wisdom. G stands for grace, which in our work we define as heartful acts of courtesy and courage. Heartful acts of courtesy and courage. H stands for humor, celebrating with amusement and gratitude. And T stands for true, living your life with integrity. Okay? Which means you know your own personal virtues and values. Like I have a list of 9 virtues and values that are true for me. I know who I am. So when I'm living in integrity, it's because all my behaviors are expressions of my virtues, right? So we never use the word truth, T-R-U-T-H, because I've watched too many countries kill each other over what they think the truth is. So in our model, there is no truth. There's only what's true for you, what's true for your family, and we honor that, okay? So those are the 5 right virtues and their definitions. Okay, so since we have some time and there's no questions right now, and I will give you how to contact me, after the presentation's over, so you can. I will say that we're grassroots based right here in the Bay Area, of course, but we're now, I've been coaching all around the world, certainly since COVID, but I love to respond to inquiries from people, especially who are local, just because it's the Bay Area. But of course, everywhere and anywhere, people are welcome to communicate with me. All right, let me teach you a very simple way to relax yourself. Okay, it'll take about 5 or 10 minutes to learn. It'll take you 6 months to become a black belt. And if you can become a black belt at dealing with your children, which means no matter what the hell they say, no matter what the hell they do, unless they're physically harming you, which God forbid shouldn't happen, unless they're really harming you physically, I am encouraging you as parents to relax. Alpha males and alpha females know how to relax. That's why they're the alphas. Not because they can kick the crap out of everybody. It's because they're the calmest of everybody. They can contain everybody. They don't need to control anybody. They can contain everybody. Okay, so let's do this. It's very simple. It's got 2 parts. If you want to dissolve a situation and recognize that you're not going to resolve it when you're all amped up, This is one very simple way to breathe. There's lots of different breathing techniques. I know this is a very enlightened audience with New Living Expo. If you already have a way to breathe that calms you down quickly, just do that. Here's a simple way. Normal breath in through your nose or your mouth, or both. Longer, slower, controlled breath out through your nose or your mouth, or both. And then you pause. Normal breath in through your nose or your mouth, or both. Then an abnormal, longer, slower controlled breath out through your nose, your mouth, or both. And then you pause. You wait for your body to naturally and intelligently tell you when it's time to breathe in again. So I'm going to demonstrate for you, and I'll do it loud enough so you can hear me do it. It is important to take a gentle breath in because you don't want to trigger fight or flight chemicals like adrenaline and cortisol, like with a big, how dare you say that to me? Like that's not going to do you any good because now your brain's going to flood you with cortisol and adrenaline. You want to take a gentle breath in, which begins the process of secreting endorphins. When you breathe out longer, it's like a big sigh. Your body's getting the message, everything's okay, and you'll be flooded with endorphins. So it sounds like this and may look like this if you can see me. Now I'm pausing. I can talk to you while I'm not breathing. Now my body's saying, dude, better breathe. While you're breathing, take a moment to notice whatever your body is literally experiencing right now. And say it to yourself. I'm going to demonstrate. To myself, I'm going to say what my body's experiencing. I feel my butt on the chair. I feel my hands on my lap. I feel my feet on the floor. I feel my back up against the back support. I feel my right shoulder moving. I feel myself breathing in. In other words, to yourself, mindfully state, without judgment, without analyzing, just literally what's happening with your body while you're breathing. Normal breath in, longer breath out. And in your mind, in loud, you're just stating to yourself over and over and over again the things that are actually happening. Take a moment to do that. If your mind wanders, that's what minds do. Don't get upset like, oh, I suck at meditation. You just go, I feel my butt on the chair again. Take a moment to notice whatever you're hearing. So you might say, I hear somebody talking. I hear a car going by. I hear myself breathing. I hear my dog panting, whatever it may be. While you're breathing, normal breath in, long breath out. And just state to yourself whatever you're hearing, and then take a moment to notice and state to yourself whatever you're seeing. If your eyes are closed, you just state the shapes, the colors, whatever you might be seeing. If your eyes are open, you might say, oh, I see a person on a screen. I see a window. I see my son walking by, whatever it is. You're just going to state to yourself whatever you're seeing while you're breathing. If your mind wanders, that's what minds do. It's okay. It's okay. And then when you're ready, just slowly and gently bring your attention back to this webinar or this presentation. If you connect with me after the show and you email me, I will send me an email and remind me that you want this technique. I have it in a written document with some more details. I want to tell you this because we don't have the time in this program. I've had tens of thousands of people learn this technique, either live from the stage or, private coaching, videos, you name it. For most people, it works like a charm. If not, let me know in your email and I'll send you some other information. But I'm telling you this, if your spouse or your son or your daughter is yelling in your face, I'm going to encourage you to say to yourself, my son's wearing a green shirt. He's really yelling loud. He's got his glasses on. I feel my feet on the floor. I'm breathing in again. He told me I'm a jerk. I'm breathing out. I see my daughter walking by. Like, just keep your mind focused on what's actually happening and don't make shit up. And when you watch yourself getting reactive, like, how dare he speak to me like that? See if you can just observe that without acting on that. I know this sounds outrageous. I'm not saying that you should be physically abused. You should never be physically abused. I'm talking about as long as you're physically safe, if you want to begin to become a black belt on parenting in this era of digital domination, which no other era has ever faced before, I'm telling you, relaxation is the first place to begin. Not yelling, not screaming, not being demonstrative, and certainly not making up shitty punishments on the spot. It's just not going to work. I want to take a moment to tell you a really beautiful story. A few months ago, I was coaching some parents right here in my office, and I'd already been mentoring them and their son. They'd been with me just for maybe about a month, but they were doing better. And the parents had come into the office, and they were sitting down, and they said, Mark, we want to tell you this outrageous story. It's amazing. I said, please tell me. They said the other day they were in their kitchen, and their son, and all the children that I coach and mentor, mostly young men, they're wonderful people, but they're outrageous. They're disrespectful. They can be disruptive, for sure. This young man happens to punch holes in the wall sometimes when he gets really mad. He can do some pretty outrageous things. Stormed into the kitchen, and the parents were there cooking. And instead of like screaming and yell at him, they held hands together. And they did this technique I just shared with you called the Right Now meditation. They looked at him, they relaxed while he was being really demonstrative, pounding the table, screaming at the top of his lungs. They did nothing. They just breathed and relaxed and held hands to show they were unified and creating a container for him to be outrageous. They didn't try to control him. He sat down at the table and began to sob. And he told his parents he was sorry for yelling at them, but he was really having a problem with two friends in school. And by getting that out, then his parents knew, because I trained them, how to deliver their wisdom with this communication technique. And they just made so much progress in helping him. They felt so happy that their son was finally listening to their wisdom. That never could have happened if they didn't know how to relax first. I don't care how great your therapist is. I don't care how great the psychiatrist. I don't care. I don't care. If parents cannot relax to their children, no matter how outrageous or how much they're lying, it's not going to work, whatever you say. So having a technique like this is very, very helpful. Okay. Any questions before I wind down here? Any questions at all? I think you can chat them in, and then Lana Jean can get them over to me.
Everybody's so quiet here today.
Okay. Well,
I think this could be a technique that could work for people that manage groups of children or older adults that they're dealing with and might have dementia or any kind of a situation that's potentially stressful, even though your focus is on family systems.
Oh, Lana Jean, I've been doing this for my patients for 37 years now. What's that?
Someone has asked to put your email in the chat and your website address.
But I don't know how to get to the chat from here since I don't think we're...
Dr. Mark has a page on the speakers section of the New Living Expo website with all the contact information available.
Okay. And I'll give it out now just because we're here. So
absolutely.
To learn more about the Young Men's Ultimate Weekend, which is this amazing rite of passage initiation for young men, ages 13 to 20. We will be doing it live again, God willing, in the summer, in July and August in Sebastopol. People come from all over the country to come to this event while I'm in a hotel nearby doing a rite of passage event for parents. So to learn more about the Young Men's Ultimate Weekend, and now, of course, with COVID, we're doing online events. In fact, we have our first online rite of passage event for young men in March. If you go to ymuw.org, stands for Young Men's Ultimate Weekend, you will find out all the details right on the homepage about the programs for young men. If you want to learn more about my work mentoring families coaching parents, and mentoring youth. Then you would go to or attending my parenting workshop. Then you would go to challengingteenagesons.com. Challengingteenagesons.com. And you will learn more about the work that I do as a public speaker. I public speak in small groups. I actually do rite of passages in people's homes for them. A lot of innovative things that are really turning families around quickly. So that would be challengingteenagesons.com. By the way, let's see, no, I was going to invite you to some event that's happening at 3 o'clock, but I don't think that's for the public. All right. So if you want to reach me personally, you can email me at Mark, M-A-R-K, at markschillinger.com, SCHILLINGER, Mark at markschillinger.com. Because I'm not a very good administrator, you may be taking a risk. I will get back to you. It may take 2 or 3 lifetimes, but I will get back. And if you email YMEW or Challenging Teenage Sons, chances are way better and my staff will get that information over to me as well. So we're really open to communicating. We do a good job getting back to people quickly. Just send us information. We're happy to help. I want to say, Lana Jean, to what you were responding, what you're saying about the technique. I can do this technique when I'm speaking to my patients and nobody knows. This technique is to be used all day long. When I teach this technique, in fact, I can practice it with you guys before I go so that you can learn to do it in 15 seconds. It's meant to be done while people are talking to you. It's meant to be done while you're driving the car with your hands on the steering wheel. Like, oh, I'm breathing in. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars. Oh, somebody just pulled in front of me. Oh, I see 1, 2, 3, 4 clouds. Oh, my hands are on the steering wheel. I feel my back up against the car seat. Like, you want to practice all throughout the day, 15 seconds or less. And you can do this anywhere, anytime, okay? When I was studying meditation in Queens in New York with my first saint, it was in Grand Central Station. We had to practice right in Grand Central Station at 5 p.m. rush hour. If you can relax there, you can relax in front of your children who's calling you some bad name, okay? So you can do this technique anywhere, all right? So let's do that technique again for, let's say we'll do 30 seconds and then we'll get you down to 15 seconds before I give you my final words of wisdom here. All right, so take a moment to take a natural breath in through your nose or your mouth or both. Longer, slower, controlled breath out through your nose or your mouth or both to initiate the secretion of endorphins. And then just pause until your body tells you to breathe in again. Take a moment to notice whatever your body's experiencing. And just state it to yourself. I feel my butt on the chair. I feel my hands on the lap. Take a moment to notice whatever you're seeing, eyes open or closed, and just state to yourself objectively what you see. Take a moment to notice whatever you're hearing. So you might say, I hear somebody talking. I hear my dog barking. I hear a noise while you're breathing. And then take a moment to slowly open your eyes if they're closed. If your eyes are open, just take a moment to start noticing everything around you as you bring your attention back into the room, okay? So that's like 30 seconds. Before we go on,
question, Dr.
Okay, before we do though, Lana Jean, can you please change the information? You have YUMW. It's YMUW. Right, for Young Men's Ultimate Weekend. YMUW.org. Okay, and you said there's a question? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Okay.
Crystal has asked if you have a different website or training option for adult children.
If I'm going to be working with adult children like who are over 20, and I do, then they would want to communicate to me through challengingteenagesons.com.
And Deb R asked if this is helpful if you're having a panic attack.
Not only is it the #1 technique that I describe as a doctor for all of my patients, if you're having a panic attack, this is what I would recommend you do first. When you become a black belt at this, and this is going to take 6 months of doing this 15 times a day for 15 seconds, which is how I teach it for my patients and the doctors who study with me, you would do this anytime you had a thought that was stressful. Like when I teach relaxation to my parents and my children that I coach and my patients, I don't say wait till the end of the day and go drink a beer and relax. I go right on the spot, do the technique. You have to change your brain chemistry from the panic of adrenaline and cortisol to the relaxation of endorphins and dopamine and serotonin. So yes, it is beneficial to do before you have the panic attack. And if you do get a panic attack, you're ready to go. Talk about being enlightened or self-realized or self-actualized. It's not something you practice when you need it. It's what you do all the time. I guess the hip term these days is yoga off the mat. Like the way I was trained in yoga or anything spiritual, it's nonstop. There's nothing other than that. So you want to practice relaxing the rest of your life all day long, and chances are you won't even have a panic attack. And if you do, you know what to do. Okay, let's wind down. I want to just give you some final words of wisdom here if I could. And it's basically this. We are the ones we've been waiting for. I mean that most sincerely. I remember when I was a teenager, I went to the very first Earth Day in New York City. And I remember like Fifth Avenue being closed, and I volunteered, and I got to open up folding chairs for the folk singers like Joan Baez and Odetta and Buffy St. Marie and Arlo Guthrie. I mean, it was just amazing. I was volunteering. And I realized then that for me, I was never going to get involved with politics or anything like that. In fact, I really didn't think that politics would ever change anything. And here it is now, 50 years later since that event. I'm 67. And for me, I was right. Politics didn't really change the world I thought it could. It's up to us, is what I'm saying. I believe that if the world is really going to change, where men and women know how to cooperate and be generous and be more loving and respectful, and we get away from the model of domination and greed and hatred, it's only going to happen because parents know how to raise healthy, happy, holy, resilient children. Because what's coming next ain't like nothing you've ever seen in what's coming in the world. We are being asked as a civilization to adapt to the onslaught of devices and artificial intelligence way faster than humanity has ever had to adapt to anything. So it's up to us as the parents to learn a method or a way to adapt to what's happening, and then it won't be a problem. You can't learn it overnight. It takes 3 to 6 months to learn, whether it's my method or anybody else's. I'm not the only one who has a good method out there. But making stuff up as a way to react to your own relationship to the changes that are happening so fast and all the work you have to do is not good. So it's up to us. Invest the time and the money and energy to learn a way to raise your children. I don't care if they're 50 or 5. And you will be amazed at how your happiness will grow because you have a whole, complete family. So the way to contact us, ymuw.org, to learn more about the Young Men's Ultimate Weekend and the mentoring I do for young men. ChallengingTeenageSons.com, because right now, if you go to that website, you'll see we have an online course coming up for parents starting in January, an 8-week course. You will learn all the tricks of the trade, make you a black belt in 8 weeks. I'm not kidding you. Okay, you just have to practice. We have an online course for young men starting in March. It'd be fantastic. So check out the websites. If you have any questions, both of those websites have a lot of FAQ. If you have any questions, any concerns, whatever, email me directly or do the info@ymuw.org or challengingteenagesons.com. I am happy and honored to do whatever I can to help you and your families. Thank you for having me. I know we have another minute or two before I have to go. I can take one more question if there is one. I can't hear you.
Excellent words of wisdom for the times we're in, and it really ties it all together, and how we're the root of the change.
We are.
And I want to invite everybody to look at his website. You have access to the New Living Access website for a week. The speaker booths will be up with all their contact information, including Dr. Marks, and we have booths going on for a week as well. And please follow up on these websites.
Yes, please. Thank you so much. Seriously, Lana Jean, thank you. Please say hello to Ken and thank him for me. And for all of you who listened, I pray that there is something that can help you.
Jeannie says, thank you for sharing your wisdom.
You are completely welcome. Thank you.
Dee says, thank you.
You're welcome, Dee. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to unmute you all if you want to give him a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Check out the show on Lisa Ling on CNN.com. It was very powerful. 42 minutes showing how to initiate young men, just like your sons and mine. Very powerful. This is Life with Lisa Ling.